Let's start with something that keeps most history lovers hooked. Every major war has its shadow warriors, but some of the most decisive figures in World War II weren't the ones behind tanks or bombers. They were Americans who could slip into the language, mindset and rhythm of the very enemy they were fighting. And for about 60 seconds, I want to make clear why these men mattered far more than most textbooks ever admit. Their voices changed the course of battles. Their decisions cut through layers of Nazi defences. Their understanding of German culture, dialects and military thinking saved American lives long before a shot was fired. And the only reason most people haven't heard their names is because their victories were quiet, written on captured maps, decoded conversations and frontline improvisations that don't make it into glossy documentaries. Now let's get into the real story of how Americans who spoke perfect German became one of the sharpest weapons against Hitler's war machine, and what lessons a modern survival-oriented viewer can actually take from their work. Understanding how these American German speakers emerged from immigrant communities that Hitler underestimated. Long before the OSS, long before military intelligence had official pipelines, the United States had something Germany never expected. Entire towns full of first- and second-generation immigrants who still spoke flawless German at home. From Wisconsin to Pennsylvania to the Midwest farm belts, German-American families passed down language, dialect, humour and even regional slang without thinking it would ever be useful in a war. Yet when Hitler launched his campaign across Europe, these communities suddenly became a reservoir of talent. These weren't just bilingual Americans. They understood regional tones, whether someone sounded Bavarian, Prussian or Austrian. They understood cultural cues, speech habits, social hierarchies inside a German unit. And when the United States Army realized this linguistic depth existed, recruitment officers quickly learned that a single fluent speaker could read a captured order faster and more accurately than a whole translation team. For modern survivalists, this underscores a simple but often overlooked principle. Every skill you carry, especially one tied to culture or language, can become a decisive advantage when circumstances shift. The heroes we're diving into today prove that knowledge doesn't become obsolete. The world eventually presents a situation where it matters. Exploring the Ritchie Boys, the elite unit of German-speaking Americans who turned intelligence into a battlefield weapon. If there is one group that embodies the title of this guide, it's the Ritchie Boys, named after Camp Ritchie in Maryland, where they trained. Roughly 14,000 men, many of them Jewish refugees from Germany and Austria, were moulded into one of the most effective intelligence forces in Allied history. These were men who fled Nazi persecution, yet returned to Europe wearing American uniforms and carrying skills that could crack the psyche of the Wehrmacht. They specialized in interrogations, frontline intelligence gathering, psychological warfare, and interpreting captured documents. Their German was effortless, and their grasp of cultural nuance allowed them to ask questions that pierced through enemy defences. They knew which accents Wehrmacht soldiers distrusted, which ranks responded to direct confrontation, and which responded to quiet conversation. That gave them leverage no amount of brute force could replicate. For a practical takeaway, consider this. Intelligence is rarely about raw information. It's about understanding the person holding that information. Even in modern survival training, this remains true. Whether dealing with negotiation, threat assessment, or simply reading someone's motivations, your edge isn't strength, it's insight. You know, the effect these German-speaking Americans had wasn't just theoretical. It truly reshaped entire campaigns. During the Normandy breakout, Ritchie-trained interrogators managed to extract crucial details from captured German soldiers, like artillery placements, counterattack schedules, and even supply routes. And this wasn't just after-action cleanup. This was real-time, hour-by-hour intelligence that US commanders actually used to shift divisions and avoid what could have been catastrophic ambushes. Then, during the Battle of the Bulge, their knack for distinguishing genuine German soldiers from English-speaking infiltrators stopped sabotage teams from seizing fuel depots and bridges. Sometimes the fact that an American could pick up on a German officer's regional phrasing right there under pressure meant the difference between a destroyed supply line and one that kept tanks rolling forward. So, here's how you might apply this lesson today. Situational awareness is at its most powerful when it's anchored in pattern recognition. The Ritchie Boys, well, they were absolute experts at noticing when something just didn't sound right or feel right. And practically speaking, this is an ability that can be trained through exposure, study, and deliberate observation. In survival terms, it's all about building familiarity with normal patterns so you can instantly detect when something's off. Now, why didn't America celebrate these heroes sooner? Well, partly because intelligence work is designed to leave no fingerprints. Reports went unsigned, debriefings vanished into classified archives, and many of these men simply returned home and blended right into American life. They became professors, shop owners, lawyers, engineers, ordinary lives, really. Their accents softened over time, and their wartime achievements stayed buried beneath secrecy agreements and, honestly, cultural silence. Only in the last 2 decades have their stories started to come out, thanks to released documents and the surviving interviews we've managed to gather. And what we've learned is that their linguistic and cultural mastery wasn't just a side note. It was a force multiplier that, frankly, saved thousands of American lives. So, when we talk about applying their lessons to modern strategy, survival, or even just personal skill development, the enduring takeaway is this: expertise, especially linguistic, cultural, or analytical, can turn anyone into a strategic asset. If you're tuning in because you care about survival, preparedness, or military history, just keep in mind, the most valuable tools you have are the ones that let you read environments, people, and motives. Developing a second language, studying another culture's mindset, or training yourself to notice subtle linguistic cues. These can give you a real advantage, whether you're travelling or navigating a crisis. And really, you want to break these skills into steps: immersion, daily exposure, real-world practice, and, of course, studying the cultural framework behind the language. That's the exact blueprint these American heroes, without even realizing it, developed long before war forced them to put it into action. Now, just to wrap up, these forgotten American heroes who spoke perfect German didn't win battles with muscle or machinery. They won with knowledge, precision, and the kind of quiet courage that rewrites history without ever demanding applause. Their legacy is a reminder that skills matter, preparation matters, and above all, understanding an adversary matters more than anything else, whether on the battlefield or in any survival situation. So, if you value deep, overlooked history like this, do consider subscribing, share this guide, and help us keep battlefield survival going so we can continue bringing you the stories the textbooks tend to leave out.